The whole goal of this challenge is to use what you have and you have fallen in love with at one point, or decide that it no longer suits you, it no longer inspires you, and get it out of your stash. Hello, my fellow knitters and crocheters, and welcome to Stashdown 2023. My name is Stephanie, and I am coming to you from the YouTube channel Little Mitch Stitches, and I need motivation every year to work through my stash. If you are like me and your stash has gotten out of hand, this is the knit along, crochet along for you. It's not really a knit along or crochet along. It's really just a challenge to everyone to use the yarn that you have in your stash that you once fell in love with and had a desire to use, but for some reason you haven't. Now, my stash, like I said, is out of control. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment and I have way more yarn than I should in this space. I really need the motivation to finish some of the projects that I have on the needles. A sweater that's been on the needles for at least 3 years, I think. I was intending for it to be my 2020 Rhinebeck sweater, which didn't happen. And it's still not done. I have a ton of hand spun that I've spun and haven't used. I have tons of beautiful yarns that are just waiting to be used. And yet somehow I'm still always out buying more yarn. Now, this is not a yarn diet. This is not a no buy, unless that's what you want to do. It's very open-ended. If you want to buy yarn every month, that's fine. You do whatever you want to do. The purpose of this challenge is really just to use more of the yarn that you have than you buy. If you buy a skein of yarn and you use it, that counts as both bought yarn and used yarn. No big deal. But I know there are so many people out there like me who just want to maybe downsize a little bit of what they have. And this is really just to help you feel motivated or inspired to use what you have in your stash already. Like I said, we all fell in love with this yarn at one point or another. And for some reason, it's just sitting stagnant in our stash. And let's use it up. I keep looking sideways because I'm looking at my stash, or part of my stash, because my stash is really just ginormous. My long-term personal goal is to get all of my stash, and preferably almost all of my knitting stuff, if possible, into my yarn hutch. I don't know if that's possible, but I would like to try for it. But I really would just be satisfied with using more yarn than I bring in this year. So, Stashdown is something that we started at my local yarn shop, like in 2015. I don't even remember how long ago. And I have only successfully completed it one time. In 2020, actually, that was the only year that I actually tracked all year and actually used more yarn than I brought in the whole year. I know that because I have some trouble sticking to things, there's other people out there just like me. I don't know if it's ADHD. I don't know if it's just wanting to do something new all the time, which also could probably be part of ADHD. But I need help from you guys to stick with me and work on this challenge together all year. Hey, you want to jump in the middle of the year? That's fine. Jump in when you can. If you start in, say, September, let's say, and you need motivation to use up some of your yarn before the holiday season comes, before Rhinebeck comes, whatever it is, that's fine too. You can jump in at any time. You can make your own rules. There are no rules. The only rule is that you challenge yourself to use this beautiful yarn that we've all invested in. The whole goal of this challenge is to use what you have and you have fallen in love with at one point, or decide that it no longer suits you, it no longer inspires you, and get it out of your stash. Stashdown is really decreasing the size of our stash. If that's not for you right now, that's okay. You can play along and track and see how much you gain in your stash. That's fine too. Anything goes. But for those of us who are trying to either live by a budget and use the yarn that we have, or just want to reduce the amount we have, be more mindful with what we're purchasing, it doesn't matter. You can join in. So what we do in Stashdown is we track what we bring in and what we put out all year. Bringing in could be yarn you buy. It could be yarn that is gifted to you. Somehow you're acquiring this yarn. Or fiber. We can include fiber in this too for spinners. And then we also track what we are putting out. Projects that we finish, things that we've knit up, yarn that we donate, yarn that we throw away for whatever reason. In order to help motivate us all year, I've come up with some challenges for each month so that we can kind of keep it going and maybe do something that you didn't think of doing, such as going through your stash and looking for damaged yarn that just needs to get thrown out. Maybe you know someone who is struggling financially and can't afford to buy the yarn that they would love to use, and you've decided this one doesn't suit me anymore, let me give this one away. I just know that I need some camaraderie in working on this. So I thought I would put it out to everyone because, like I said, I have been doing this for quite a few years and I've only completed it successfully once. And that's not even just reducing my stash one year. That was literally remembering to track all year. I am not good at remembering that. I always start out strong and then peter off eventually. Things get overwhelming and I forget to track. So how we track is we weigh our yarn. I've seen a lot of knit-alongs, crochet-alongs that go by yardage, but that's not so easy to calculate all the time, especially if you have some mystery yarn, you're not sure what it is, and don't have a good way to calculate what your yardage is. So it's easiest to just weigh everything. The other thing is that 4 ounces of fingering weight is the same size essentially as 4 ounces of a bulky weight. They both take up just as much room in my stash. The bulky weight might take up a little bit more room just because it's bulkier and doesn't condense as nicely as fingering weight, but essentially one skein is one skein, whether it's 400 yards, whether it's 90 yards. So it's easiest to just weigh everything rather than try to calculate your yardage. I use a kitchen scale and a tiny mini scale, both of which I bought on Amazon. They are pretty inexpensive and pretty easy to get, obviously, on Amazon. Any of your general kind of department stores will have it, like Walmart and Target. Like I said, it's not a very big investment, but if you can't afford that or you choose not to buy one, that's fine too. You can estimate. I just have a little bit of crazy in me and I need to know that exact number. I have to weigh it all out and know for sure what my number is. And sometimes that is handy because I know that there are some things that I do that only need 2.5 grams of yarn. Speaking of grams, I prefer to do everything in grams because it gets a little bit more precise. Everything is set up for Stashdown in terms of grams, but if you want to switch it to ounces, we can certainly do that too. And by what I mean by that is I use a spreadsheet system to track everything. I have been honing this spreadsheet for years. I make adjustments each year to make it work a little bit better for me. And I am going to share that with all of you. So if you would like to participate in Stashdown, whatever time of year, even if it's a different year, because hey, let's face it, I need to do this every year. I am going to have a Google form linked down below so that you can fill it out. I just need your email address to share the Google document with you. So it's accessible to everyone because it's right in Google. It's right on the web. No apps or weird tracking systems. You just need to input your numbers and your projects. As much as I love Google, I'm also very much a paper and pen person. I have to write things down. So I have this little notebook that was already in my notebook stash. Yes, I have a notebook stash and that also needs to be downsized. And so I pulled this out and made a little Stashdown notebook. And what I did was I wrote down my goals for the year, an overview page for my monthly stats, which will also be in the Google page, but I also just kind of wanted to throw it in my notebook. Anyway, let's look over our monthly challenges. So, the first thing is I made goals for the whole year for myself. The main goal is to track. Secondary is to downsize your stash if that's what you are looking for. My main goals are to reduce my stash for at least 9 out of the 12 months. There are months that I know that's just not going to happen. So that could be October if I go to Rhinebeck, although I don't usually buy a lot at Rhinebeck. That could be December if I have a yarn advent calendar. I'm not going to knit more than that in that month or crochet more. Unless I have a big long-term project that gets finished in that time, we'll see. Then I want to finish an old whip each month that was cast on before the beginning of the new year. I want to complete all of the monthly challenges that I have set because I set them, so I should try to at least do them. I want to finish my Make 9 projects, and we'll get to that with January. I want to finish 2 to 3 Advent socks per month. So that is my Advent calendar from Sleepy Fox Yarn Company from, I want to say 2019, but I can't remember what year. I need to knit Christmas socks. I gift my family members socks for Christmas each year, and that would be my brother, my dad, my mom, and my stepfather. I also knit socks for my husband for Christmas every year and also his birthday. I would love to get another pair in this year for him, but I don't know if that will happen. And then I want to use at least one skein of hand spun because I spin yarn and then I just hoard it because I just spin for fun, not with a project in mind. So I would like to start using up some of my hand spun. My hand spun stash isn't that crazy, but it's just kind of, I never know what to do with it. So monthly challenges. Each month I came up with a challenge for people to work towards if you needed motivation for something to get out of your stash or use something. I know sometimes I could use a little bit of a push to do certain things, especially if it's something new, because I overwhelm myself with the starting of something. Do you know how long it took me to start this video today? So January's challenge is make and plan for a Make 9, Finish 9, De-Stash 9, Use 9, one of those. I love the Make 9 challenge, but I've never completed one, not even close. In fact, these Advent socks were on my Make 9 for like three years in a row, I think, maybe. I don't even know. So what I've also done before in the past was take that Make 9 challenge and then reimagine it as Finish 9. So 9 unfinished projects that I had from the previous year. So I'm going to hone this still because I haven't finished my Make 9 challenge. But it's basically try to plan for how you're going to use your stash for the next year. Do you want to use 9 specific skeins? Do you want to give away 9 things? Do you want to finish 9 projects? 9 new projects. It's really up to you. So my Make 9 for the year is socks for Kyle's birthday, socks for Kyle for Christmas, a sweater for Jax, who is my 5-year-old, a sweater for Benji, who is my 2-year-old. A Bats sweater, that's the name of the pattern, using Haiku Kenzie, which is in my stash. Mittens for me using my red hand spun. That would get that hand spun goal done. I spun this yarn years ago. I think I got it at maybe not the first, second or third Vogue Knitting Live in New York. I spun it all, and it's just sitting in my stash. So I've been thinking I want to make mittens or possibly throw mittens with it for years. I just haven't done it though. Let's see what else. The Advent sock calendar. These little guys. Christmas socks for me. I don't have any holiday socks. I don't have any Halloween socks, which is my favorite holiday. I don't have any Christmas socks, but my Advent calendar did come with this very Christmassy skein of yarn from that Sleepy Fox Yarn Co. And I do want to use this for day 25 Advent calendar of the kids' Advent calendar, but I also have plenty to make myself socks out of it. And then rip and fix one of my shawl wrap scarf thingies. I knit this a couple years ago with my friends. We did it for Rhinebeck. I just need to rip it out and replace the yarn. I don't like the yarn that I used in it. It doesn't really work with the rest of the project, so that's got to get fixed. Okay, let's keep going with the monthly challenges. So February's challenge is throw something out. If you have anything that is damaged, had moths, is dirty, moldy, is tangled, let it go. And March. It's Mend March. Have you guys heard of this? It's something I've seen on Instagram where people spend March mending their clothes, a lot of visible mending, but it doesn't have to be visible mending. It could be any mending. So find something in your stash that needs to be mended, or use your yarn to mend something that isn't a sweater or socks or something knit. I used yarn a couple years ago to knit patches for Jax's pants because he had worn holes in the knees and it made them last a little bit longer. April. Set a yarn budget for yourself. It's tax season, so that's the perfect time to think about your finances. Don't we all love that month? No, we don't. But I am a budgeter. I think it's important to set a budget. It doesn't mean that you have to limit yourself if that's not for you. It's just, again, part of being mindful of what you're doing, mindful of what you're spending your money on. And when you really sit and think about how much money we spend on yarn and then we just let it sit and essentially sometimes rot in our stashes, that's just a waste of money. So let's make sure that we are using our finances in a good, purposeful way and using the yarn that we've already spent our money on. Or plan your money for what you're going to be spending it on. Like I said before, Stashdown is not a yarn diet, is not a no buy unless that's what you want to do. But if you like to spend your money on yarn, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you might be thinking, oh, it's April. And what's 6 months from April? Rhinebeck. Rhinebeck is coming. 6 months doesn't seem like a long time, but it'll go by fast. So if you start thinking about your Rhinebeck budget now, if you start planning for that, you'll have a good budget, potentially, depending on your situation. But you can have a good budget for Rhinebeck if that's where you choose to spend your money. So now is the time to think about it ahead of time so that you can be prepared for it. I set myself a very small spending goal right now because of our financial situation. We have other priorities. Yarn is not a priority for me right now. As much as I would love to just buy all the yarn in the world, don't have space for it, but also don't have the budget for it right now. So I have to be mindful of what I am spending my money on. If I want to buy an advent calendar, I think some of them go on sale as early as April, June, July. I have to think about it ahead of time and set that money aside. Okay, continuing on. For May's challenge, it is Me Made May. This is another online challenge where it was started in the sewing community to show off the things that you have made. It really started with showing how versatile the things you have made for yourself could be and wearing them multiple times in a month. Some people have taken it to mean, let's make an entire wardrobe for ourselves and show it off a different outfit every day. That is not possible for me. So May is oftentimes, for many of us, too warm to wear any more sweaters. So instead of showing off the things that you've made for yourself, maybe now is the time to focus on making something for yourself. Ideally, a garment like a sweater, but maybe that's not for you. Who cares what it is? You make your own rules. So make something for yourself in May using your stash. June is a fun one. This one, I'm challenging you and me to use our yarn in an unconventional way. Now, unconventional can mean really unconventional, or it could just be unconventional for you. If you are a knitter, learn to crochet, learn to weave. If you already do those things, maybe make some friendship bracelets, wrap a present in it, do something fun with the kids, like make a yarn doll, or let your kids use yarn in a project and do that with them. That could get a lot of yarn out of your stash. Kids go through that stuff like crazy. Make some pom-poms for next season's hats. This is a real fun chance to get creative, even if it's just something small. See what you can come up with. July. So July is when Tour de Fleece is, which is a spinning challenge to spin, well, set your own goal kind of thing. But for me, it's always to spin at least every day. It's pretty much the only time of year I ever get my wheel out and do any spinning. So this is the fiber month. Use fiber. Either get yourself spinning some fiber from Stash, do a needle felting project, make some felted soap, and if none of that is for you, use some hand spun if you have that in your stash. If you don't have any of it in your stash, free for all month. I don't know what to tell you. Do whatever you want with it this month. But really, it's to try to use up some of those. Maybe just use a special skein, because a lot of times we buy hand spun and it's just very special to us and we don't use it. So find a special skein in your stash to use up. August I called holiday heat. Now, if you are in the southern hemisphere, this obviously doesn't quite work for you because I think it's warming up. Well, I guess technically it could still work then. But holiday heat is August is only a few months from Christmas and Hanukkah and maybe another holiday that you want to give gifts for. So this is the time to really start thinking about your holiday projects. Find something in your stash to use for a holiday project or a gift for someone else. Just make something that you're going to gift to someone else. September. September is time to avoid procrastination. Hi, that's me. You're going to use this time, if you haven't done so already, to make your Rhinebeck sweater. Or if you're not going to Rhinebeck, which let's face it, most of us probably won't be, your Weinbeck sweater, if you're missing out. If you already started it, use this time now to finish it. Don't wait till last minute. Don't give yourself a knitting injury trying to finish up a project. Finish your projects for Rhinebeck or Weinbeck. What are you going to wear the weekend of Rhinebeck if you're not going? October is my favorite because Halloween is my favorite. And like I said earlier, I don't have any Halloween socks. I don't have anything Halloween, I don't think. Actually, that's not true. Probably do. I have made my kids Halloween costumes every year. I've crocheted them every year. Last year it was a knit and crocheted project. But the challenge this month is to make something Halloween themed. It doesn't have to be a costume. In fact, it could even just be something fall themed. If you don't celebrate Halloween or don't love Halloween like I do, that's okay. But there are fun sweaters that you can knit, or hats, a pumpkin hat, even if you're gonna knit a pumpkin hat and give it off to a little baby. November is a little bit different of a challenge. We have been focusing on using our stash all of the year. And in November, I'm going to challenge everyone to give away something from your stash. Maybe you know someone who can't quite afford as nice of yarn as you have. Or maybe you know someone who wants to learn to knit or crochet. Find someone that you can gift some yarn to from your stash. December is use bulky yarn, because this is the time of year where a lot of people are trying to figure out last minute gifts to gift to someone, or you have something come up really quick where you need a gift and you have to knit or crochet something really fast. So use bulky, super bulky yarn. The other way to achieve this, if you don't have that size yarn in your stash, is to use multiple strands held together. That is a great way to use up a lot of yarn fast. And that's it. That is the monthly challenges for Stashdown and everything that goes along with it. I hope you will join me on this fun year-long adventure, whether you're jumping in January or in August, whatever works for you. If you are like me and you have to focus on using what you have rather than constantly bringing more in, this is the perfect challenge for you. Let me know in the comments down below what kind of goals you are starting to think of that you might have for this year. I can't wait to see what everyone is doing and what everyone wants to get out of their stash, how big everyone's stashes are. If they feel like sharing, I will share some of mine. Maybe when I get it a little more organized. But Thank you for joining me on this crazy journey. I hope you all have luck downsizing your stash if that is your goal. Otherwise, you might just be tracking to upsize your stash, and that's okay too. We all have different needs. We don't all need to do the same thing. I think this is the perfect opportunity for everyone to really just be more mindful of what we have and what we are buying rather than random buying. I think it's great to support local yarn stores and small indie dyers and small indie makers, but I think that the stash gets out of control when we don't do that with intention. I am very guilty of that myself. So this is our time to really mold our stash to what we want it to be. Thank you guys, and I hope you all enjoy Stashdown. See you all soon. Bye.